The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Welcome into episode number 20 of Crossed Flags, and whole lot of questions about this week.
I've got quite a few.
Let's get into what we know. We're doing this on a Thursday, a day later than what we usually do. I'm Steve West. This is Matt Nicholson. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you have not already, please do subscribe. It's going to help us out a lot. Just, right down below there. Just hit the subscribe button. It's free. And then that way, anytime anything's uploaded, like the next edition of Cross Flags, episode 21, you get the notification. You're good to go.
Yep.
All right, so as we record this on Thursday, just a couple of hours before we actually started doing this podcast, we found out from Corey LaJoie, who got a hold of media himself and said, I'm not going to be at Spire Motorsports next year. So he's out of the 7 car. This is 2 weeks after they signed Rodney Childers away from Stewart-Haas Racing, and in the press release said, they're putting Rodney Childers with Corey LaJoie. So something went south in a hurry over there. Hopefully we'll find out more, and we'll let you know during the Saturday show. Again, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Hope you join us then. Also, we'll have a little more information on this. Haas F1 actually being proactive this year. They had already signed Oliver Behrman to take over one of the seats. Nico Hulkenberg was going to be leaving anyway. We knew that. So they needed a replacement. They signed Ollie Behrman to take over that seat now. Soon to be former Ferrari development driver, soon to be Haas F1 driver. Who is his teammate going to be? We had recently found out Kevin Magnussen was going to be out the door at the end of the year anyway, and we knew he was on a very hot seat anyway, and he just wasn't performing. They've pulled Esteban Ocon in a multi-year deal from Alpine, where he said, about 2 months ago, he was going to be leaving? So next year, Haas F1, Ollie Behrman, Esteban Ocon. Should be interesting. See how that lineup goes.
Should be.
So those are your quick updates. And again, we'll give you more information on both of those stories this weekend on the Championship Racing Network. Full 2-hour show. You can find it on CRN Live. Again, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Hope you join us on Saturday morning. We've been keeping you updated also on John Force, and this is where our latest statement from the Force family will be coming in as well. So we're going to show that to you on the screen here and kind of give you an idea of what's going on. Real quick review. John Force, of course, about a month ago now, got into a major wreck at Virginia Motorsports Park. As he was hit the start-finish line, he could not even get the parachute out. And at 300 plus miles per hour, the engine absolutely exploded. And he lost control of the car, and it veered into the closest retaining wall and bounced off and hit the other one. So between G-forces, the explosion, the rattling around because of hitting both retaining walls, John Force, who is 75, they had what they call a TBI, traumatic brain injury. So he stayed at Virginia Commonwealth University's Medical Center in Richmond for a couple of weeks, got transferred from their ICU to their neural ICU, and then they did a med flight, sent him out to what we have now found was Phoenix, Arizona, to a neural rehab. You'd only been there a week?
30 days.
Not in the Phoenix location is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I think 2 weeks at the most.
Okay.
I think 2.
At the most, yeah. But either way, they've actually allowed him now, as you can see in the statement, or you read in the statement, and you can see it on the screens behind both Matt and I, that he's been released. Not that he's cleared. That's the thing that we need to understand. But the progress here is what's important. He's been released, and he will continue his rehab for this situation, but it will be on an outpatient situation from this point on. He no longer is a resident of any medical facility. He can do this on an outpatient situation, and that is good. He does still have some cognitive issues that he's dealing with. So I doubt seriously there's any way. And even if I was John Force,
right,
knowing I would want to get back in the car as soon as possible, I would not press it to try to even figure this out before the end of the year.
Yeah, especially not when you've got a broken wrist as well,
That's
combined with the brain injuries that you have and your rehab process you're going through with that, as well as a broken collarbone. Because I don't think I would want to be dealing 6 to 7 Gs in a funny car at 300 miles an hour with a broken collarbone. Because one wrong move, you're done.
Yeah, exactly. All it would take is one more move over into a wall at some point in time, and you hit that thing wrong, and who knows what could happen. So our thoughts and our prayers continue to go out to John Force and his family. But the Force family is back to full-time racing, and they hope not this weekend. This weekend they're going to be in Sonoma, and then they're going to start to make their way back towards the East Coast. They're hoping maybe in the next couple of races that they'll have everybody back. Brittany's gone back to Top Fuel Racing now. Austin Prock was already still campaigning in Funny Car, but that's John Force's Funny Car still out there. Doesn't have a driver. They're hoping to get that fixed and that situation taken care of here.
Yeah, tentatively what I've seen is they're going to try to get it on track at the Norwalk Night of Fire.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen.
And that'll be not this coming weekend, but a week from this weekend, the beginning of August, and then they'll figure out from there who will be in the car the next time they actually get a points race going in the National Hot Rod Association. So that's John Force. Oh, gosh, where do we start with this?
Question mark number 1.
Yeah, of several.
Seems like a billion.
Yeah. This weekend, the one thing that probably we can say is not a question. This past weekend was NASCAR heading back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And the last 4 years, since 2020, we have seen NASCAR go to Indianapolis and run on the road course. I had the opportunity to go up in 2021 for the inaugural NASCAR IndyCar weekend. That was when NASCAR led off on Saturday, IndyCar led off on Saturday with their second race of the year on the Indianapolis road course. And remember, we were in COVID, so everybody was still kind of jittery about the whole thing. So IndyCar ran first, then the Xfinity Series ran on that Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday, here comes the Cup Series, right? Well, they did that for a couple of years, and then last year, even though IndyCar wasn't a part of it, NASCAR went ahead and ran the road course again. But this year is the 30th anniversary from the first time that NASCAR ran on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the actual Brickyard. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, it wasn't going to be the Indy 500. There are generally temporary grandstands that are put up for the Indy 500, especially when they get a sellout. Number one, and number two, just to kind of help separate out the Indy 500 a little more, the Indy 500 is 500. Remember, Brickyard is 400 miles. So they want to have that separation. I thought it was fantastic that they went back to it.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, to me, about time.
For sure.
Having gone and watched the racing on the road course, I didn't have a problem with road course racing. I've never had a problem with road course racing. I love it personally. But I can tell you right now, at Indianapolis, it's difficult because where I was sitting with my wife and a couple of our friends, we were in the grandstands up above where up at the top, truth be told, but we had a canopy covering us, right? And we're a couple of sections away from the actual yard of bricks, the front stretch where the start-finish line is. I can tell you right now, the sight lines there, horrible.
Yeah.
What you can see from that particular angle is basically part of the road course behind the infield grandstands from the last several, 5 turns maybe, coming down onto the front stretch and all the way down to turns 1 and 2. And once they get past turn 2, you can't see a thing until they get to about turn 8, maybe 9.
Yep.
I'd have to look at the map again just to double check and see what number it is.
You're missing down from turn 3 and 4 of the road course down Holman Boulevard. I think it's to like turn 7, turn 8.
You're missing a vast majority of that because of the pagoda that they've got there, which is a really cool looking thing, don't get me wrong. But because of that pagoda that's there and because of the infield grandstands that are there, it just ruins the sightline. And that was one of the problems with it. And number two, it doesn't hold the same prestige as running on that classic rectangular 2.5 mile oval.
Agreed. Fully agree.
So to be back to the Brickyard and be back to being able to actually call this a crown jewel race was really good. And the racing was good. There's no doubt about it. The racing was actually better than what we have seen in a while on the Brickyard because something about that old car, if you were able to get out front, that clean air, you were gone. And it was hard for anybody to catch you. And even if they could, to pass you was an entirely different story. There's something about these Gen 7 cars that does seem to have made racing on 1.5 mile tracks and bigger a little bit better.
Most of them.
Most of them. True.
Most of them.
I'll agree. Most of them.
But, yeah, you've now got the ability to be able to run a car in front of you down. Clean air is not that much of the king anymore. But, yeah, I would say it's made it better some.
Yeah.
Not everywhere, but some.
True.
It's destroyed the short tracks.
Yeah. For the most part, it has.
But
And that's another story that we'll get back to at a later time.
the 1.5 miles, all the way up to, I'm going to say, I will put Indianapolis in there as well. It's amplified it in a good way to be a whole lot better.
Yeah.
If you follow what I'm saying.
But then we get to what has been a constant complaint of both of us here on this show.
The people in the tower.
And the massive inconsistency when it comes to those people in the tower. There are some really good officials there, and then there are some people who we just wonder how in the heck did they get their job. We've talked about that. I think we mentioned that last week on this particular podcast. And it showed up in two factors.
Elton Sawyer being one.
One where Ryan Blaney, and I don't think Ryan Blaney has as big of a base for an argument as he thinks he does, but I understand where his argument comes in. If you're on the outside lane at Indianapolis, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, you are screwed, but
here's where Ryan Blaney's argument falls apart. They're coming to a restart, which is going to be the green, white, checkered restart, and Brad Keselowski is the control car as they do the choose. So he obviously takes the inside lane. Ryan Blaney took the outside lane. As they're coming to the restart, as the pace car pulls off onto pit road, Brad Keselowski followed. And then Kyle Larson had the chance to jump up because that's been the rule for ever.
yeah, the whole row moves up one spot.
Yeah.
One row, not one spot, but one row.
Ryan Blaney immediately went into a tirade thinking and saying that Kyle Larson jumped the restart. SMT data has a hard time confirming that. So really Ryan Blaney doesn't have a whole lot of ground to stand on here. In this case, I would say NASCAR was in the right in letting it go.
It was because it was the deception of how it looked to where it made it look like Larson jumped first. Mm-hmm. But with that SMT data shows that they fired off at the exact same point. And that momentum that he had rolling up forward made it look like he jumped, but when those cars launched at the same time and the computer data within the SMT confirms that, your point's invalid.
Yeah. So Ryan Blaney, sorry, we don't agree with you. On the other hand, we may have another argument. We're going to go into more detail on this during Saturday's show as well. NASCAR is going to attempt to put in a system or allow the teams to put in a system that's going to allow these cars the chance to lift up the car so it can actually roll. If you get, well, let's face it, if you get more than one flat tire on these new next-gen cars, you're beached. You can't go anywhere. The way that they're built, these things sit on the ground and you just can't get enough traction to be able to get that car moving from a dead stop. Like I said, we'll go into detail on the system that NASCAR's worked up. It just sounds very, very weird.
I'm waiting to see who the first person is that tries to beat the system.
Because
to
you know
get
they will.
the rear of the car in the air during race traffic and get a little bit more downforce. And yes, somebody's going to beat this system somewhere.
Absolutely. But where this system comes into play is the latest edition of Who Got Beached. Ryan Preece and Chase Elliott were running up near the top 10 or inside the top 10. I can't remember which, but it was near the top 10.
They were.
On the restart, they come off a turn 2. Preece and Elliott get into each other. It spins Preece out. He spins to the inside, hits the inside wall, flattens at least 2 tires. I can't. Maybe it was 3.
It was 2. Preece actually ran out of fuel.
And he ran out of fuel.
Yep.
So the car's beached. It's sitting there, just off of turn 2, right barely off the track. Barely. Here's where the inconsistency comes in. And you've seen it as well, Matt.
Because I can't repeat what I said in a message I sent to him.
Well,
but,
yeah,
you know,
not in the family type show that we're trying to do here.
True. I was livid.
He and I have both seen where in a situation where a driver gets spun or is spinning, whether they were hit or did it by themselves, doesn't matter, and they're going towards the wall, we have seen as soon as that driver hit the wall, the yellow comes out. That fast.
Just like the paint caution that come out of Texas at the All-Star race in 2022.
Yeah. I mean, the caution flag flies immediately. Why? Potential debris on the track, plus you got a car out there that may or may not be in a bad situation when the field comes back around. You see where I'm going with this? Meantime, the field goes booking down. Guess what isn't shown? Caution flag. They go all the way around turn 3, to around turn 4, hit the start-finish line at full throttle, caution flag. Why? Why'd we wait half a lap? They said that Ryan Preece was trying to get the car going. Well, I'll give you a certain amount of leeway to that point for a moment. Because, sure, if he could have gotten the car going, I wouldn't have thrown the yellow either. So I'll give you 1, depending on how fast you do it. I might give you 2. But with running out of gas and with spinning of tires,
That car was going nowhere.
that car ain't going nowhere.
All right.
And NASCAR officials should know that if you get 2 flat tires, that car pretty much isn't going to go anywhere once you've gotten to a dead stop anyway. I would love to know, and nobody from NASCAR is making the explanation that is really worth a flip about why in the world we didn't throw it.
Let's put it
you
in
want to know
nicely.
what you want to know what Elton Sawyer's explanation is?
Well, we gave him every opportunity to move the car, and we just felt that it needed to be thrown after the white flag flew.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the problem.
And now he's also claiming a timing factor. Here's the problem that I've got with that part of the explanation, Elton Sawyer, and NASCAR as a whole. That means you felt like you were about to be strong-armed by NBC Sports. You had already been kicked off NBC and thrown over to the USA Network so that everybody could go to local news. So what? Were they complaining about the fact that they were missing out on the 18th airing of whatever movie that they were airing on a USA Network so that they could put the NASCAR race on?
Oh, they had to go to your local news due to the fact of the presidential announcement. Okay, I'm going to say this, and by no means whatsoever, this is not a knock on anyone in this room. This is actually a fantastic compliment. The way some of these officials are in this booth, as much inexperience and is still learning about motorsports in general right now, Molly Robinson can officiate a race better than they can.
She'd have thrown a yellow flag
She'd have thrown the yellow.
much faster. She would have understood yellow flag goes right here.
This is why they have 2 spotters at Indianapolis. The primary spotters were covering the short chute from 1 and 2 into 2 down to the. I just messed myself up. The exit of 4, all the way down the front stretch, through turns 1 and to the exit of 2. Your secondary spotter had the exit of 2 all the way down into 3 into the exit of 4.
Why do you think
Okay.
that goes? Let's go back to that sightline conversation I had earlier in
The
this
spotters
podcast.
in turn 3 were screaming, car stopped on the bottom, car stopped on the bottom. Why are we still green? He turned the car around. Oh, we wanted to give him every opportunity to move. Give me a break.
Explanation doesn't hold water.
When he turned the car around and he's in the bottom of the racing groove, and you got 30-something other cars coming full steam ahead at you, no.
Yeah.
Why do you wait to throw it? Look, Kyle Larson was going to win that race regardless.
Yeah. He had the gasoline. That was
He
no
had
problem.
the fuel. He had the freshest tires of anybody, and he sliced his way up to that field. You wouldn't deny Larson. But when you wait till the white flag's taken and then throw it, there's where you create these garbage, ridiculous social media conspiracy theories, and therefore you have to put your bell cow Elton Sawyer on a Sirius XM in front of TV and God and all creation just to go, well this, well that. Elton, I said it on this platform. You have sat in a seat. You know what it's like to be behind a 5-point harness. Officiate the race and talk like you're behind the wheel.
Yeah. We still don't understand why they kept that flag in their pocket. And truth be told, we can say the exact same thing about IndyCar this weekend. Because if you watch the race up in Toronto, there was an accident there with Pato O'Ward, and then all of a sudden, Marcus Ericsson and this car, Santino Ferrucci and this car and this car, it took them 4 cars before they pulled that yellow out and let everybody know. This is on a street course, which means narrow.
Santino Ferrucci was nearly launched himself to Montreal.
Yeah. We're talking narrow course because it's a street course, and you get one car that's partially blocking what is the race line.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you got, what, 6, 7 cars that are involved in a
I think
crash?
it was 7.
Why are we holding the yellow flags in the pocket? But even more importantly, and especially NASCAR, because again, we said it when we started this particular conversation, we have seen where NASCAR throws the caution immediately when a car makes contact with the wall. Why didn't that happen here?
We can say this. We've seen a NASCAR official's booth. We've seen an IndyCar official booth.
We have.
IndyCar, the way their officiating system is and how many cameras they have around road courses and street courses, and guess what? Along with spotters
All over the course.
all over the course, there's no reason that it can't be. But the IndyCar system can make NASCAR system laughable.
Yeah.
Laughable.
It does. I'll agree with that wholeheartedly. Let's talk about some better news here. The Haas team. We're going to be concentrating on them quite a bit here.
Yeah, probably the worst kept secret.
Yeah. We were not surprised by this news. We just talked to you about Haas F1 signing Esteban Ocon to pair him with Ollie Behrman next year. That's the F1 side. On the NASCAR side, obviously Stewart Haas Racing is going away in favor of the Haas factory team. Well, this week, they finally made their decision on who was going to be driving their singular cup car, supposedly. I still get the funny feeling they might keep one of those other.
Probably.
Okay. But either way, we found out that they are going to have, well, they're going to keep. It's probably the better way to put it. They're going to keep Cole Custer. I know, we're all shocked. They're going to promote him back up to the Cup Series after this year is over, which means back down to the Xfinity Series for 2 years, having won a title. And considering the fact that he won at Pocono, he's locked into the playoffs to try to defend that title.
Yep.
But next year, he goes back up to the Cup Series. He is going to take the 41 car. That is going to be the number if they are a lone Cup Series operation. That will be their number, 41. Okay, great. This also means this. Ryan Preece, gone. That means the entirety of the 4-car Cup operation of Stewart Haas Racing next year, out. Noah Gragson's already found his seat. Josh Berry's found his seat. And Chase Briscoe found his seat. Ryan Briscoe, though, becomes a free agent.
Preece.
Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece becomes a free agent. I know I'm confusing people. I'm confusing myself. So welcome to it. So Ryan Preece is a free agent. Riley Herbst is a free agent at this moment. Let's get back to Cole here.
Yeah, I think I know where he's going.
Cole Custer gets back up to the Cup Series. This is a not unexpected move. Again, it's Joe Custer, his dad, is going to be the vice president of operations or president of operations, I think, next year when this officially becomes the Haas factory team. Joe's not going to let his son go anywhere if he can't help it, and sure enough. And here's the thing. Cole's not a bad driver.
Anywhere where Cole Custer has been in a seat, Joe Custer has had a direct link to it.
Sure. But Cole's not a bad driver. Cole's a good driver. There's a reason why he's won races at the Xfinity level and is a champion there. And he does have a race win in the Cup Series. Next year is going to be an uphill battle. Yes, they're signed a technical alliance with RFK Racing, which means good things for them.
Sure.
But at the same time, you're still a single car Cup Series operation. Ask JTG Dougherty about that. And how well is that working? Yeah. Okay.
That's a double-edged sword right there.
I get it. It's an uphill battle. Is it an impossible battle? No. Is it an uphill battle? Absolutely.
Impossible battle? No. See Furniture Row.
Yeah. But it is an uphill battle, and not that this is the exact same thing, but when you're talking about an operation that's got 2 cars and has been looking to expand potentially to 3, talking RFK Racing, and then you've got this allied team that's over there, that sounds a lot like Team Penske along with the Wood Brothers, doesn't it?
Kind of does.
Take a look at the performance of Team Penske and the 2 and the 12 and the 22 and compare that to the performance of the 21 of the Wood Brothers. See where I'm going with that.
Yep.
So that's why I say this will be an uphill battle. Is it an impossible battle? No. Can Cole Custer win? Yes. Is it going to be on a regular basis? I can't answer that. Am I interviewing myself on my podcast? I am. So be aware of that. But anyway, congratulations to Cole. He's back to the Cup Series as of 2025. Riley Herbst has been talked to and been offered to stay in the Xfinity Series ride by the Haas factory operation. While you have the bird in the hand, I get that. If I'm Riley, I'm not answering that question immediately.
No.
And there's a reason why. I'll let you explain.
There is a reason why, because when you think about when you push like the little ring doorbells or the blink doorbells and you look in and you see that face in the door and you want to know who it is, well, his little doorbell's been pushed and Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's been in the little camera frame going, "Hey, buddy."
Think about this. For next year, Josh Berry's going to the 21 Wood Brothers car.
Yep.
Not the worst. Again, not the best. You're allied with Team Penske. Hopefully they help you out a little bit more. Noah Gragson, not a bad ride for him either.
I think with the Wood Brothers situation, you're going to find out, and it's going to determine what my golden rule saying is on this show and these platforms. You're going to find out really quick if it was the car or if it was the driver.
Very true.
Really quick.
Noah Gragson landed on his feet quite nicely. He's going to take over effectively the seat that Michael McDowell left at Front Row Motorsports. That's a team that's up and coming. I don't have a problem with that move.
They're climbing.
Arguably the best move up until now has been Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe's going to Joe Gibbs Racing to take on the 19 car.
He kind of landed on one of those Serta Ultra Cloud mattresses where when you lay down on it, you sink into it about 1.5 feet. He's on one of those.
That's called tripping upstairs, ladies and gentlemen.
It is.
That's an improvement. I mean, I sit here telling you I am a Stewart Haas Racing fan. I can tell you right now, the Joe Gibbs Racing cars are better than the SHR cars. Flat out.
Yep. Chase
Briscoe's going to a nice situation.
He is.
Very nice situation. But if everything works out and 2311 Racing, not 23 by 1, inside joke, does get that third charter and they end up putting I just don't see how that's not also a step up. I really don't.
Sure.
You put Riley Herbst in that situation, you promote him into the Cup Series, number one, and you put him in a 2311 car, which is allied with Joe Gibbs Racing.
Well,
that's a major step up for Riley Herbst.
Yeah, the little birds on the street are chirping that he's the top person in line to get that ride, because along with Denny and Michael, his family is putting up some of the money to get that charter for him to get that seat.
And guess where that money's coming from? Monster Energy. Because that is a sponsor. At least a portion of it.
Part of it.
Is because that has been one of Riley Herbst's longtime sponsors.
And what other sponsor is in 2311? Monster Energy.
Doesn't that make a nice connection?
Yeah, it does.
So what does Haas factory operation do for their 2 Xfinity Series cars? Well, as it turns out, there's one lady who has been sidelined but is still a Ford Performance driver, and that is one Hailie Deegan. And word has it that Haas factory is quite interested in having a chat with Hailie Deegan about maybe putting her in the car.
Or has already had a chat.
And I would imagine that has already taken place, and now it's just a matter of figuring out the details. Because if I'm Hailie Deegan, I'm out of this ride here. I don't have that ride anymore. Haven't had it for a couple of weeks. Not since Chicago.
Yep.
So why wouldn't I stay at the same level that I jumped up to this year on a multi-year deal that somehow went and disappeared? Like David Copperfield doing a magic trick. Why wouldn't I go ahead and do that and arguably go to the better operation? Because here's the thing that we know about the Stewart-Haas Racing team the last couple of years. Yeah, the Cup Series operation's been down, but that Xfinity Series operation wins and wins titles.
And there's another connection here to this as well. One sponsor for Stewart-Haas in the Xfinity, Monster Energy. Who else sponsors Hailie Deegan?
Monster
Energy.
We noticing a trend here?
Yeah, I think we got a trend going here.
So it wouldn't surprise me if she's in either the 98 or the 0 next year. Probably the 98. That way you don't have to change the paint scheme. All you have to do is change the name.
Change the name on the door.
So, we'll keep an eye on that for you and see what happens with the other Haas factory operation car as well, and see what's going to happen when they finally get their lineup set. And again, I'm not thoroughly convinced yet that both of those charters that Haas or Stewart-Haas Racing still has up for sale, I'm not thoroughly convinced both of them are going to sell. One of them, pretty certain. But I wouldn't be terribly surprised if the Haas factory team fields 2 cars next year. Wouldn't shock me at all.
Nope.
And then that brings us back over to the fine folks in Formula One, because we questioned the officiating process when it came to IndyCar and NASCAR. But for a long time here, when it comes to Formula One, we have questioned the idea of team orders. And this is where McLaren comes into play. McLaren and their 2 drivers, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, they have been running very, very well this year. Very, very well.
Picked it up a lot.
Yeah. The whole team has picked it up very nicely. Lando Norris is actually second in points. He's got a long row to hoe if he's going to be able to catch Max Verstappen, but at this point in time, it's certainly more than mathematically possible for Lando Norris to come up and be a major challenger to Max Verstappen at the top of the points rundown for Formula One. And Lando Norris got the pole for last weekend in Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy who won the race was Oscar Piastri, and congratulations to him. He claims his first ever win in Formula One. But the thing about it is while Oscar was able to get past Lando Norris after the start of the race, lap 2 or 3? I mean, it was pretty rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
When it came time to go through their strategy situation and they made the last call for them to come into the pits and get themselves new tires, you don't refuel in Formula One, in case you don't know that. But when they come in and get newer tires to make it to the end of the race, They called Lando Norris in first. Okay, that's fine. Call Lando in first. Then they call Oscar Piastri in the next lap. Well, as it turned out, that was close enough to allow Lando Norris to retake the lead. So here's Oscar Piastri in second place, who is kind of legitimately complaining, hey, listen, I was the guy in the lead and I was not really being challenged by Lando. Can I get the lead back? Well, the fine folks at the McLaren front office decide, you know what? Lando's got a point. He was in the lead and it was our strategy call that took him out of the lead. So they start calling on Lando, who's leading the race and again is a championship contender, to give the lead back to Oscar. Lando complained loudly for several laps.
And he had every single right to do so.
Yeah.
Why in the world does F1 insist on having team orders? You're ruining motorsports in general.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Period.
Strategy calls are strategy calls. Live with it. And here's the deal. If Oscar Piastri can get back out there and he can legitimately pass Lando Norris and do it cleanly, you'll let him. But if he can't, don't make him. Don't game the system this much. You are going to win the race. And if Lando Norris had won the race, he would have closed up that much more on Max Verstappen and maybe given you an even better mathematical chance to go for the title this year.
That is true.
But you actually hamstrung him because you decided you needed to have team orders. Makes no sense.
That would be like if I was the team principal here. I call in Steve first I'm Andres Stella. I'm calling in Steve to get tires first. Put on the softs. Let's make a mad dash to the end. Next lap, I'm calling Molly in. She comes in, gets her 4. But yet, we've got a problem because the one beat the other one off pit road. Okay. But if Steve goes and complains, because, oh, Molly beat me off. Molly's got the lead. She beat me off pit road. I want the lead back. Or vice versa. If she got mad because Steve got the lead and she had the lead before we come in, it could be either which way. Go drive the car. Beat him on the track. Mm-hmm. Just because you had the lead coming into the pits doesn't mean you got to have it right back. Because, I was leading first. That's like a 3-year-old going, I had that first, or I had this first. Whatever. It's motorsports. Pull the little harnesses down, grip that steering wheel a little tighter, and drive.
Go do your job. That's what it's about. Go and do your job.
Where have we heard that before?
Yeah, really. Go. Do your job. If I turn around and I was second to Molly, and after a round of pit stops, Molly's in the lead, or not in the lead anymore, I'm the one that's in the lead. If she can come out there and she can beat me on the track, I'm going to let her have it. Again, she's my teammate.
Guess what?
If she's legitimately faster than me, I'm going to let her go, but she better earn it.
This is where you take your hands off of the headphones and don't touch those little red buttons, and you sit there and you let your drivers settle business and take care of business on the black strip.
Yeah. And just like I said, the situation, if Molly could come up there and make that pass, I'm going to let her do it because she's my teammate. And I would expect the exact same situation in reverse, that she would understand if I am legitimately faster and I can beat her on the track, she would allow that pass cleanly so that we can guarantee, like they had, a 1-2 finish. That's called teamwork.
But you're naturally, and this is where they messed up. You take the person that gives you your best shot at winning a driver's title, you take him out of the opportunity and cost him a minimum of 2 points. Mm-hmm. 2, maybe 3. I don't know. You cost him those points from being that much closer to the lead, all because of, I had the lead first.
No.
Give me a break.
Doesn't work. Do it on the track. Don't make team orders. And I don't care whether you're McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, or any of the other 7 teams that are out there on the Formula One grid right now. Don't do team orders. Unless you have a by far and away legitimate 1 versus 2, and you're dealing with a situation where the points are that important, maybe. But at the same time, if one car is legitimately that much faster, I'm not going to artificially make the slower car take the lead.
Nope.
It doesn't make sense because as a team, you're hurting yourself.
Yep.
I'll put myself in the position of team principal and put Molly and Matt in the car here. And if we get that same situation, but Molly's in the points lead here, but somehow she ends up behind Matt, does it make sense for me to tell Molly, stay where you are because Matt's got the lead? No. I'm going to tell her, you go race, and I'm going to tell Matt, hey, I've told Molly she's got the green light to go race. If you can hold her off, great. But here's the thing. We know she's faster than you.
Yeah, she's 2.5 tenths quicker than you per lap in each sector.
So here's the thing, Matt. If you can hold her off, more power to you. But do it cleanly, because if you wreck both cars, there's going to be hell to pay. And number 2, if she gets up to you and she can make that pass, you better let her and then get in behind her and try and finish second.
Yep.
So, Molly, you've got to win. Thank you very much for checking us out. Again, we're going to get into more detail on several of these stories and a whole lot more coming up on Saturday morning. Join us CRN Live, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time for the full 2-hour show. Next week, no Crossed Flags podcast. Our producer, not going to really be available. She's out of the country. It's going to make it difficult to produce. So we're going to take a week off next week, episode number 21 in 2 weeks. Join us then, and join us on Saturday morning, as I said, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. And don't forget, subscribe down there, would you please? And we'll talk to you next time right here on CRN and Crossed Flags.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.